Good afternoon and welcome to our HR Business Services Committee meeting. It's Tuesday, February 11th, and we're starting at 5:08 p.m. And we're going to start with our HR monthly department summary report. The payroll team has been working very hard in January to print and mail all the W-2s to employees. Despite a lot of efforts to get those out electronically, there was still folks that needed them mailed home. And so a lot of those were mailed, and we thank all of our staff for getting those out. January was also a busy month for the human resources team, who are working through displacements and other staffing changes and notices. And in January, the team emailed and mailed a total of 63 letters. In January, several members of the HR leadership team attended the Minnesota Association of School Personnel Administrators. Topics that were presented were leading through disruption of change, managing employee morale, and recurring legal issues for personnel administrators. On January 27th, the benefits team hosted a retirement session, and 15 employees attended the session. Some things we're working on right now is some district recruitment plans. There's a transportation hiring event coming up that's being planned, and we'll talk more about that in our transportation update. There's a wellness fair coming up on May 27th, along with the Professional Development Day. And then DUIA negotiations have continued with the latest meeting happening on February 4th. Some upcoming changes and improvements to the department. It looks like we're working on some career and hiring events that are going to be coming up in March, which is great to see. And then all of our summer school positions are posted, which is really great. It seems like we're ahead of schedule on that. Is that pretty good? Great. And then at the bottom, you'll see some general staffing reports. Of course, on our consent agenda, you'll see more details. But we have certified appointments, leaves, resignations, retirements, and appointments. Any questions on our HR resources report? Member Banks?
Sure, thank you very much. Just a quick question. Can you talk a little bit more about the recruitment plan for the American Indian community? What does that look like?
So we are currently working on as it says here, a district recruitment plan, and then I have a separate one that focuses on the American Indian piece that I'm also working on. And really what that will outline is the specific events and locations and other type of recruitment we will do to target that audience. So some things that we have done in the past, we've attended powwows, we have done different things with ICO, or ACO, and we've done some of those partnering. So that's what it'll be included in that, and then kind of that how we diversify hiring panels and look for some of that training for our staff that are going to be on interview panels, so that they have that recognition of why it's important and some of those type of things. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh.
We'll also be sharing more at an upcoming committee of the whole too, so that'll be a good opportunity down the road.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? Great. Well, we will move on to our enrollment report. We budgeted $8,068 in our budget, and we're still over that, which is really good news. I kind of wanted to point out, if you look on page 5 of the month-to-month enrollment changes by school, you'll see that on the left-hand column there's a number of our schools that are actually over what we had last year, which is really good to see. And then I also wanted to point out, if you look at East High School, kind of near the bottom, you'll see that we are up. So we're up numbers there, but if you look over to the month-to-month net, you might see, oh, we're down negative 56.0, but really we're still up for the year. And those changes are expected to be seen this time of year at our high schools, just because students are graduating early, things like that. Anything to add on that enrollment piece?
No, East, the column you were referring to was the end of year for 23-24. We ended at 1386.45, and they started September with 1508.58. And yes, as you said, it has been going down, but that's very normal for this time of the year because we have mid-year graduations. So you'll see that we'll start drawing back up again.
And another page in our enrollment report I wanted to point out was page 8, I believe. Yep. I thought this was just a really simple, nice graph to point out. You can look at the top, it says ISD 709, active enrollment by month, and then it gives you different years by color. And you'll see that this year is in the marigold color, 24, 25, and if you look across the page, you'll see that we're up over the course of most of the months. So that's good news. Any questions on our enrollment report? All right, well, we'll move on to our child nutrition report. What we're working on now is we're updating the wellness policy. We're doing some preliminary summer meals planning, some upcoming changes and improvements to the department. I think we mentioned this last month, but we held a training with a certified rational combi oven chef for kitchen staff, and I remember hearing that staff really thought that was valuable. So basically, how to run our ovens efficiently. In the staffing report, 3 positions are open at Lincoln Park right now, which is one of our biggest staffing challenges currently. And just like many places in our community, illness is really kind of impacting our district as well with staffing concerns. Any questions on the nutrition report? Member Williams?
Do we know where the summer meals are happening? Is it the same schools?
I believe so, because I think Lowell should be up and running this summer, so we might be adding Lowell back. We will have that information for you in the next 2 months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's a really good question. I was wondering about Lowell as well. On the next page, you'll see that so far, year to date, we've served over 1 million total meals and snacks, which is great to see. The next report is our facilities department report. I see, which is good news, that our Myers-Wilkins repairs are complete with full occupancy given. So that means they can use the whole gym now, right? Not just half the gym? Perfect. Especially with the weather being cold, it's nice to know they can run around.
Yes, I think we reported last month that there was some testing being done to the concrete wall that was replaced, and that there was some additional testing that had to happen, but that did come back and is with flying colors, and now they are in the gym.
Great to hear. I see that we also installed an ADA door at Homecroft. And then some things that we're working on is the solar project installation, which we'll see in our bids, RFPs, and quotes, that there's some work happening there. Myers-Wilkins is having some build-outs for new classroom spaces. East High School, there's a manufacturing program build-out being worked on. And then we're moving forward with the new chiller at Myers-Wilkins. And then it looks like we had a staffing report that Scott Cobb was rehired to the district as a part-time painter.
And just a note on that, Scott was a painter here many years ago, and then we took that position away once that it was vacated. So there hasn't been a painter that's been a district employee for quite a few years now, but there is work to be done, and it's very expensive to contract it out. So this was an opportunity for us to do some savings as well by hiring somebody in as a part-time employee that already knows the buildings and has the skill set, rather than paying the contracted out prices. So we believe that he'll have plenty of work to do in his part-time status.
Absolutely, it's always nice to have fresh coats of paint on all of our classrooms and buildings, so.
Thank you, and I think this is reflective of us trying to make sure that we were examining all of our legacy practices when it came to budgeting, and that quite often the budget savings were through reduction, but in some cases it comes through addition. And so this is really good thinking on the part of our facility staff and leadership. Thanks.
And if I could circle back to the meals program in the summer, as you've heard already, we have started summer programming planning. And so that's why I was quickly pulling up that doc to review what Sheila has shared regarding summer meals. And she indicates here that meals will run June 16th through August 15th. And she has some dates when there will be no service. She said locations will be dependent upon state approval, but more than likely will be Stoll, Lower Mac, Myers-Wilkins, Piedmont, Lincoln, Denfield, Rockridge, and it just depends on how long those programs run as well. So she has identified the time and locations.
Can you say the end date again, August what?
15th.
Thank you.
And just for our community too, we partner with other organizations in the community who get to pick up meals, and we're making sure that our students are fed throughout our community. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
correct, and you want to speak to that? Yep, that is correct. That's something that we do. We do in terms of partner with some organizations to provide meals as well. So
One more.
we'll have some more information on those specific partners at a later date.
And then last question, is it breakfast and lunch or is it just lunch?
Breakfast, snacks, and food.
Perfect.
So it appears to be.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Well, we will move on to our safety report for February. The 2024 OSHA reports are finished, and they're posted at the sites. We ended up with 22 recordable injuries, which are any injuries that require treatment beyond first aid. And so our OSHA rate was 2.19, and we had a goal of 1.0. This means, though, that for every 100 employees, just over 2 people were severely injured, which to me seems still pretty low. I don't know if anyone wanted to speak to that, but it still seems quite low. It's good to have really good goals with safety, though.
I think we've had a lot of really good years in the past that has made that rate probably really achievable. And I'm not sure what was unique about this year. And I also think, and you'll look at the breakdown is on the second page of this document. But I think a big part of kind of those numbers as well is when you look at the number of restriction and days away. And so that talks about severity. So even though there were only 4 days away, or 4 cases that actually had days away, there were 105 days that they missed work. And so that all goes into the calculation. It is still a very good rate industry-wide. We have just been so fortunate to be usually under 1 that for us, it's quite shocking, and I think, through the safety discussions, we're looking at what can we put into place. We've been working on near-miss programs and some of those type of things to get in more employee engagement to make sure that we can address that going forward.
Perfect, thank you. And then, later on in the report, we see that Lexi Neff has completed a lot of different trainings when it comes to safety, which I think can only benefit our schools and our district. One of them was a hazard recognition training that was offered, I guess maybe she gave that was offered at the Paraprofessional Development Day, which is great. So it's kind of that learn and teach. And she was also awarded the Minnesota Department of Safety Homeland and Emergency Management certification for school emergency management, which is great to see. We also see on this report there was some chemical and hazardous waste disposal happening, some reporting for OSHA and other regulatory reporting. And that kind of summarizes our safety report. Any other questions about that? I appreciate you explaining just that it still is a really good rating, and there is a lot that's calculated into those ratings. All right. Well, then we'll move on to our technology report. The transition from former manager Bart Smith to our current manager Peter Graves has seemed to have gone very well. And we wanted to give a thank you to Bart for all the conversations, making the transition a lot easier for all of us, including Peter Graves. This is a hardworking department doing high-level work, and it's not always seen, but it's vital for our Duluth Public Schools. And one thing that comes to mind on this is our cybersecurity and how important it is to keep our students safe, our staff safe when it comes to that. Some things that we're working on right now is getting the network to stabilize, continuing to work on a phishing campaign, which is really important. Just the other day, one of my coworkers got a phishing email thinking that I was asking her to, get some gift cards really quick, and, that would never happen. So I really appreciate the work of everyone working in our technology department, because those threats are always out there. And I know there's also a lot more that goes into it. I know that a little bit later we'll see, we got some bids and RFPs and quotes for some of our technology pieces, like our internet. So there's a lot that goes into that as well. And then it looks like upcoming changes and improvements. Over the summer, we're planning a Windows 10 to Windows 11 transition, which I'm sure will require a lot of work. I don't know much about that, but it sounds complicated. I don't know if you want to speak to that more, if there's anything to add. Good. Okay. We'll get there. All right. Staffing report, we are completing our network team, filling our open network 1 position, and this will put us in a better position to maintain and troubleshoot our network, which there's so much of our work that goes into technology. Yeah. Any questions on the technology report? All right, well, we will move on to our transportation report. We continue to route students, keep the buses on the road, and safely transport them daily with the limited staff we have on a daily basis. We're continuing to improve processes to make things easier for staff and safer for students. This also helps lighten the load for staff that are doing multiple tasks to make sure that we just meet all of our obligations when it comes to transportation. So like I said, some of the things we're working on is improving systems, which goes back to our strategic plan, and that'll increase efficiencies. Some upcoming changes to the department and improvements. There was a successful training for the Professional Development Day in January. It was geared towards creating a respectful team-oriented environment, both in the building and on the buses. Staffing report, we're still running on average, an average of 14% absenteeism with our drivers and helpers, and Voyager Bus is dealing with, company is dealing with a similar situation. So it's not unique to our district. I think that's probably something that we're seeing across the state when I read articles about other districts too are also facing bus driver shortages. So we really appreciate all of our bus drivers. Looks like we hired a new bus driver trainee and also a van driver, and the van driver could be driving as early as Tuesday next week, which is great to hear with all of our vans that we bought.
And I met both of them yesterday. It was great. And the new trainee is actually a parent in the district too. So a lot of parents taking advantage of those situations. And we realized because of being strapped with illness, like many other places, sometimes we're asking people to go above and beyond with certain things, asking Jeremy or our routers or our mechanics to drive. And we realize that's not optimal, particularly from a contractual perspective, but we believe that the priority of having our kids get to school is paramount, and we need to do whatever we can to get kids there, and we appreciate people going the extra mile to do that.
Absolutely, thank you. And then, we usually go over our stats for average mileage. So our average mileage this month was 89,668. And again, our goal is to have an average of 50 to 60,000 miles. So we appreciate all the folks doing the maintenance on our buses to keep them running and keep them safe for our students. Any questions on our transportation report? Member Banks?
So I think this possibly is too early to get any tangible information, but I know it's not on here related to transportation. Can you tell us how the new DTA relationship is going? Do you have any information on that?
I have not received any information as it went live a week and a half ago, but we will ask the DTA to come to us in June and give you a report of ridership. But I will reach out to them maybe in March and just ask how is it going, and then I'll report back to you. But we will get you actual data once the school year has ended.
And I kind of figured it was probably too early, but I just thought I'd ask that question. Thank you.
And in these situations, no news is good news, because if there was an incident, they would contact us. They are really good about that. I think during our conversation, they said, if I recall, there was 1 or 2 incidents last year, and that was it. That was of any significance, and those were addressed. And so they're really good about communicating with us and partnering with us. So we're happy and pleased that it is off and running, and we'll stay connected and get data to make sure we are aware of ridership and any concerns.
And I too ran into somebody from the DTA recently, and they were saying very positive things about it as well. So that's good. And I think some of the statistics we hear, like 1 million meals served, that's very impressive. And just thinking about the transportation piece, with 89,000 miles per month, we go to the moon and back every 6 months.
That's a lot, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have any stats on it, of course, member banks, but I've heard, as I'm sure you have too, just really positive feedback from youth in our community to have this resource. So I really appreciate everyone's hard work on making it happen, for your advocacy on that. I've just heard really good feedback from youth, especially youth who are, under-resourced, don't have a parent to drive them here and there and everywhere, to be able to hop on the bus when they're contributing to their family's economy for a job, or if they miss the school bus and can get to school. So this is just, it impacts our students' lives and their families' lives in many ways, I think, beyond school even. So really appreciate it.
And I just wanted to say I ran into a professional staff member from Denfeld High School yesterday at the mall, and he said it is going exceptionally well. The students are very happy, and staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. If there's no other questions about our transportation report, we'll go on to our recommended resolutions. The resolution that we have this month is for the acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools. So if you look in our packet, you'll see a lot of really great, generous community members giving donations to Duluth Public Schools. And we can highlight a couple of those at our school board meeting. But definitely take a look. It's heartwarming to see, and we really appreciate our community support. Well, we will move on to our consent agenda. Of course, you'll see a more detailed HR staffing report. You'll also see our financial report. And I just wanted to highlight here, we all know, but just for our community too, we have a lot of different funds for in our budget summary. We have our general fund, we have our food service, transportation, community ed, operating capital, building construction, debt service fund, trust fund, and others too. And I just wanted to point that out because obviously we've been having to make a lot of different budget cuts this year. And I see comments sometimes in the community on social media or whatnot, why are we making cuts when we have, we're putting in solar or we're renovating the First Street building, and just wanted to make sure, again, just that we all kind of share that those are different funds. So we have different funds, like our general fund is salaries, and then the First Street building is mostly like an LTFM bond. So those are different pools of money and can only be spent on specific things. So that's kind of what I wanted to point out this month, just kind of given kind of where we're at. But if anyone has anything else to add.
No, thank you for pointing that out. And actually, because of that public misperception, I think the two things juxtaposed of us spending $12 million on building renovations while we're cutting $5 million in staffing, that it is very different pots of money. And so we've actually asked Adele Wellens, our communications officer, and she put together a video for us that we're going to be sharing on social media that really clearly explains the difference between the two. A reminder, we bought that building for $600,000 for like 68,000 square feet of space. And so it's a small fraction of what it would have cost to build it separately. Also, we have in our leases about $650,000 a year in leases. So in my mind, it's really the difference between buying cheaply and renting. And so that's if you think about it from a housing perspective, I think the long-term investment in Duluth and in Duluth Public Schools will more than pay off.
Thank you. Next on our consent agenda are fundraisers. And so you'll see a fundraiser for Lester Park Elementary School there, which was Jostin's Picture Day profits. And then we'll move on to our bids, RFPs, and quotes. We have, looks like 4 of them here. The first 3, like I said, have to do with our power supply and our internet. And you'll see that we have those quotes there and bids. But I just wanted to point to that we're going to get half back. You'll see that it talks a little bit about the E-rate. So from E-rate funding, we're going to get back half of that at some point. So anything to add on that? Okay. Appreciate everyone's work. I know getting bids and quotes can be very time consuming. The last one that I wanted to point out was bid number 1336 for our solar power. Wolf Track Energy submitted a bid for $36,172. And then Ideal Energy didn't submit a bid, so we'll be going with Wolf Track Energy for that. Any questions on our bids, RFPs, and quotes? Okay. We will move on to our expenditure contracts. We see quite a few here, so I would just kind of take a look at those. Trying to think, a lot of them are a little bit smaller, so hopefully you can take a look at those. I looked at them. Any questions on our expenditure contracts? Okay. And then we did, so no cost to contracts. If we flip back there were a couple. One, and Member Eater would always say that she loves to see those no-cost contracts because they're free. But there's one for the College of St. Scholastica to continue to offer the Pathways to Teaching course for the 2025-2026 academic year. And then there's one for Boost My School, which is a trial program for Lincoln Park Middle School and their fundraising efforts. So those are a couple of our no-cost contracts this month. And then if you flip back to our grant applications, you'll see that we have a handful of grant applications here. We have one to the Minnesota Council of Teachers of Mathematics, the Arrowhead Library System for to go towards a class set of Chromebooks, keyboard covers for the purpose of teaching the typing skills. We have one to the Minnesota Department of Education, and the funds will be used to pay for dedicated FTE to work on some MTSS implementation. Got it. The MN confused me there for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then we have one to the Federal Aviation Administration for $993,000 and some change, and the funds will be used to create an aviation mechanic pathway from Duluth and Rockridge with Sears support, FTE dedicated to training and building the program, and then dedicated FTE to run the new course regardless of the class size. That is really exciting to hear. Did you want to add anything to
Yeah,
it?
I just, both
amazing.
of those last two that you mentioned are really critical to us. There's a lot of work done through the Compass program with the state and with Jen and Brenda and Anthony looking at our MTS needs. They're actually looking at having us do a presentation and a superintendent's panel at their summer retreat, because they feel like we're not all the way there yet, but we're making really, really great progress, and that they see us as a model in the state, but also to have us put together that grant. We may be looking at putting that towards some positions that would be coming to the board later, looking at with using some of those funds. But that work with the FAA, I was there at the preliminary meeting with Cirrus and Danette Sebo and others, and really thinking about what we're doing with career pathways, making sure that we have career opportunities for kids here that are high pay. When you think about what an aviation mechanic makes, that's going to be something that is really lucrative, and we want to make sure that we are giving our kids that type of programming. Then today, Assistant Superintendent Bonds and I met, and we were even talking about possibility of smaller scale, but a bicycle mechanics program for the district. And so we're pretty excited that we'll be able to do everything from bicycles to airplanes soon.
That is great to hear. I really appreciate seeing the work that we're doing with the partnerships in the community, and just seeing, like, this is the community we live in. You know, what jobs do we have available here? What opportunities do we have for our students? And just appreciate all the work that our staff have put into those partnerships. This is really exciting. Bikes, cars, and planes. What about trains?
Yes, great. Well, working as a locomotive engineer is actually quite lucrative too, so we might have
Yes.
to get that going. But this is, and I'll share it with you electronically, but this is a new flyer that we put together for the Duluth Promise, which is that collaborative partnership between Duluth Public Schools, Minnesota, University of Minnesota Duluth, Lake Superior College, City of Duluth, College St. Scholastica, the Chamber, and Apex. That's something that we'll be promoting at our Duluth Days coming up tomorrow. And so really, I'm very, very excited about what we have going on. We think about this not just as an opportunity that we're offering in general, but we're also trying to make sure that we're cooperating and working really closely with all members of the community, and that we're also thinking about how are we making sure that there's access for all students to begin with, because sometimes these programs don't necessarily take equity into an account until something afterwards, but we're really trying to make sure that it's baked up in from the beginning, and that it's really a factor from the get-go.
Great to hear, thank you. And then our last grant application is to the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation to purchase snowsuits and snow boots for preschoolers to be able to play or to access outdoor nature play. Just really happy to hear that. I know that it's hard for those teachers when our littlest learners might not come with the right gear, and then you want to get outside and can't, and so really appreciate the community support there for that. That's really important too, so. Any questions about our grant applications? If not, I think that ends our HR Business Services Committee for the evening.